today we're going to go over how to write a 5-paragraph argumentative essay. This is the same topic that we worked on in class last week, so most people should be pretty familiar with it. We're using this article and the other article. I also attached it to the message center, so if you need to review the article, that would be a great idea. That way you kind of remember the information, so you can kind of think about it when we're writing. First thing we need to do when we write an argumentative essay is to make a claim. What I mean by that is we need to take a side, you need to stay on one side or the other. So when I read the article, I constantly think about, should food be Americanized when it's brought to the U.S.? After thinking about it, I take a stand. So since most of our classes said yes, that it should be, that's the stand I'm taking today. I'm going to skip the hook for a second, and I'm going to go right to the thesis statement. The thesis statement is really easy. The point of the thesis statement is it tells us what the whole paper is going to be about. And all I have to do to make a thesis statement is answer this question and restate it. So I'm going to say food should be Americanized when it is brought to the U.S. Now I'm going to go back up to the hook. The point of a hook is to get our reader's attention. So we can ask a question, that's the most common one. We can tell a story. We can have onomatopoeia, a one-word attention getter. I'm going to start my hook off with a short story. Now remember, when you do tell a story, it needs to be short. So we're only talking 2-3 sentences, something like that. Okay. Now in order to get a 4 on the rubric, which is an A, our hook has to be striking and engage our reader. So it's kind of tough to get a 4 with the hook, but it's not impossible. So here's an example of a hook that would get a 4. As you pull that taco out of the oven, as you pull your taco out of the oven, the delicious smell causes you to think about all the great changes that has happened to the taco. Kind of running out of room here. Okay, now I'm going to go down to my preview. And what my preview does is it creates 3 reasons that is going to be the topic sentences of my body paragraph. So when I'm thinking of my 3 reasons, I need to keep in mind that 1, they have to be big enough where I can come up with 2 pieces of text evidence, and 2, they can be changed. So if I come up with a reason and I don't like it when I start writing a body paragraph, then I can change it. That's one thing about writing, you can always change it to improve it. So my preview is going to be food should be Americanized because it creates new traditions. Introduces us to new cultures. And it improves the taste. Now that I have my preview written, I'm ready for my first body paragraph. My first body paragraph, the topic sentence for my first body paragraph, comes right from the first part of our preview. So my first topic sentence is going to be food should be Americanized because it creates new traditions. Now I'm ready to find a piece of text evidence. What I mean by evidence is I need to go back in one of my two articles, either one is fair game, and I need to find a piece of evidence that proves that food being Americanized creates new traditions. So I'm going to pull my articles up. And I'm looking for something that proves that food creates new traditions. After skimming through the articles, I see right down here where it says Italians brought pizza to the U.S. in the late 1800s. So at this point I have two options. I can either quote this, which means I can use exact words and put quotations marks around it, or I can paraphrase it. Most of our paper should be paraphrased because paraphrasing shows a higher level of thinking, because we have to know what the author is saying in order to put it in our own words. So of course I'm going to paraphrase this. And before I do anything, I need to figure out who wrote this article, because I need to cite it, which means give our author credit. So I see on the first page here that Lauren Tarshis wrote this article. So I'm going to go back to my outline, and I'm going to start it out by just putting Tarshis. And of course, when you write this into a paper, I need to word it a little differently, but I'm just going to put it there like that so I know that this came from Tarshis. And I'm going to put pizza came from Italy. My next job is I need to explain how does this evidence right here prove this reason. So I'm trying to explain how does this pizza coming from Italy prove that it creates new traditions. Now for exclamations, one way I can do it is to have my own experience, to use my own experience, or I can just kind of explain it just like it says. So for this one I'm going to say most people, and this is kind of from my experience, most people have a tradition of eating pizza at least once a week. Now I'm ready for my second evidence. My second evidence does the same job as my first evidence, except I need to find another example. So I'm going to go back to my text here. I'm going to see if I can find another example of how Americanizing food creates new traditions. And what I'm going to do, remember, if we paraphrase, we can just reword what the author's saying, so I can take all kinds of pieces of evidence. So I'm going to take this piece of evidence right here where it's talking about non-Hispanic Americans being scared to eat the taco because it's too spicy. And I'm also going to take this piece of evidence down here where it talks about how even Bell's and critics agree that tacos are an American favorite. Just like before, I'm going back to my outline, I'm going to cite this. In other words, I'm going to say that it came from Tarshis, so I'm going to put Tarshis. And now I'm thinking of ways I can put this in my own words. So this time here I'm going to put most Americans we're scared of the taco. After Bell Americanized it, it is now an American favorite. Of course, when we write this into a paragraph, we constantly look for ways to reword sentences. This is one of them here. I'll probably reword, but it's good enough for now. The point of an outline is to get our basic ideas down. Okay, so just like before, we're looking at our explanation. We're trying to figure out how can we explain this. And again, this is one of these where I'm kind of using my background experience, what happens around my type of family things, and I'm going to put, in fact, many American parties traditionally serve some type of Mexican food. Okay, now I'm ready for my second topic sentence, and remember our topic sentence comes from our preview, so I'm going to go back to my preview, and it looks like my next topic sentence is going to be, food should be Americanized because it introduces us to new cultures. I'm ready for evidence. That means I need to go back to the article and prove that food needs to be Americanized because it introduces us to new cultures. When I go to my articles, there's a sentence in our second article that stands out to me. Where it talks about that foods we associate with immigrant, this one right here. In fact, it actually goes right here. Okay, and it talks about how foods that we associate with American, like foreign food, are actually usually changed from the original type of food. Now, before I go back to my outline, I need to figure out who wrote this article, because remember, this is a different article and I need to cite it. So up top, it looks like Rachel Swarms wrote this article. So when I do go back to my outline, I'm going to start out by writing Swarms. And then I'm going to paraphrase it, so I'm going to put it in my own words. And I'm going to put food we think of as foreign is often different from the original version. Now my job is the same. Before I need to explain what I mean by that, how does this here prove that food should be Americanized because it introduces us to new cultures? And again, this is one of my experiences. I'm going to put, this is evident. When going to an authentic Mexican restaurant, versus going to Taco Bell, or versus going to an Americanized Mexican restaurant, like Taco Bell. Okay, back to looking for more evidence. Again, I'm looking for evidence to prove that Americanizing food introduces us to new cultures. And I did find something on our previous article that talks about, right down here, that talks about hundreds of American kitchens serving ethnic favorites. Okay, again, I need to go back and I need to cite this before I do anything. So this came from our first article, which is by Tarsus. So I'm going to put Tarsus, and I'm going to put America serves many different types of foreign food. This is a paraphrasing again, it's in my own words. My next job is to explain it and use some background knowledge, and I'm going to say that Rockford alone serves several different, or Rockford alone has several different types of restaurants. From a variety of cultures. I'm ready for my third topic sentence. Of course, my third topic sentence is from my preview, so that's why I'm going to go back to my preview, and we're going to see that food should be Americanized because it improves the taste. My next job is I'm going to look for evidence from our article that proves this. So we're going to go back to the article by Tarsus, and there is a sentence in here that talks about how Bell made a taco sauce that's milder than the typical Mexican sauce. So just like before, I'm going to cite my source, which is Tarsus again. And then I'm going to paraphrase it, which means I'm putting it in my own words. I'm going to put Bell created a taco sauce that was milder than the original. I need to explain this, and I'm going to explain it by talking about how most people that go to an authentic Mexican restaurant often order the mild sauce, which introduces us or allows us to eat Mexican food. Next jobs, I need to look for another piece of evidence that proves that Americanizing food improves the taste. And we're going to go back to Tarsus's article, and we're going to take a look at the hamburger, where it talks about how the hamburger used to be made of spoiled meat, and after it's Americanized, it became fresh meat. First thing I need to do is I need to cite my text. I'm going to go back to my outline. I'm going to cite my text. This also came from Tarsus. I'm going to put the original hamburger. The original hamburger was made from spoiled meat. It was improved by being made by fresh meat. Now this explanation, this is probably less from background knowledge, there's a little bit of background knowledge here, but this is more just of a normal explanation. And what I'm going to say is that many people eat hamburger today. If it was made of spoiled meat, it wouldn't be very popular today in America. Now I'm ready for my conclusion. My conclusion is probably one of my easiest paragraphs because it's already written for us. A lot of our conclusion comes from the introduction paragraph. So the first thing I need to do is I need to restate my thesis. And in order to do that, before I even restate it, I need to come up with one of my conclusion starters. This is in your interactive notebook. Remember, you can use your interactive notebook during our test next week. We had about 6 conclusion starters. You can pick any of them that you want. And I'm going to use as you can see. As you can see. And then I'm going to go back to my thesis here. And I'm going to figure out how can I say that differently but make it mean the same. I don't want it to be exactly the same because that's going to bore our readers. But I do want to keep the same meaning. So I'm going to put something like, as you can see, food needs to be Americanized when it enters the U.S. Notice how it's different. It means the same thing, but it does sound a little different. My next jobs, I need to restate my preview. Same thing applies when we restate our preview. We need to figure out how can we say it differently, but make it mean the same. So I'm back to my introduction, and I'm looking at my preview right there, trying to figure out what can I do to reword this. And what I'm going to do, I am going to change a few words, but I'm also going to start out with my 3 reasons. So that's always a good method. So my 3 reasons start there, and I'm going to put something like creating new traditions, introducing new cultures, and improving the taste are just a few reasons why food needs to be Americanized. Or should be Americanized, either way. My next job, my last job, is to create a clincher. What a clincher is it's 1 or 2 sentences that leaves an impression on our readers. So this clincher, this sentence here, is kind of like a hook, and it needs to make our readers remember our paper for the rest of their lives. That's our goal. Now, in order to get a 4 on a clincher, we need to somehow link it back to our hook. So I'm going to go back to my hook, and I'm going to think about how can I wrap this paper up, put a bow on it, and make it so it addresses this hook a little bit. So I'm going to put, as you take a bite out of your taco, you appreciate how people have transformed it into American tradition. Notice how we're talking about a taco again, so it does address it. And it seems like it's a nice way to end this paper, because we did talk about the taco quite a lot. once you have this outline filled out, the toughest part is over. Because all we're going to do now is we're going to take the outline and we're going to turn it into a paper. So basically our job is now is we're going to think about, as we're writing, how can I improve what I wrote in this paper? Can I add transition words? Can I restructure the sentences? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to write this a few paragraphs, probably just the introduction, maybe the body, or the start of the body, just to give you an idea of what I mean. But this is pretty self-explanatory, so I probably won't write the whole paper, just a few things. So we start with our hook. We're going to put, as you pull your taco out of the oven, the delicious smell causes you to think about all of the changes it has went through. Now remember, I'm doing this fast, so I'm getting a lot of typos, but remember, there really should not be too many spelling errors in your paper, because if you right-click in Microsoft Word, it'll suggest spelling suggestions, unless it's totally off, like sometimes I do when I'm typing fast. Okay, so our next sentence is a thesis. And my last sentence is my preview. Now I am ready for my first body paragraph. So I'm starting off my topic sentence. I made sure I indented. Now this is one example here, Tarshish. I can't just put Tarshish. I need to figure out a way to introduce Tarshish, so I'm going to put according to Tarshish. Ready for my exclamation. Evidence 2. Again, Tarshish, I'm going to put Tarshish states. This is, again, I'm going to reword this. I'm going to put the taco instead of it is. So I think most of you probably get the idea. We're going to pretty much wrap this up, but if I was typing this as an assignment, I'd just keep going all the way down to the conclusion. After I was finished, I'd look for spelling errors, try to figure out if I can reword it to make it better. If you have any questions about writing a 5-paragraph essay, you can email me or talk to me in class. I'll be more than happy to answer it. Otherwise, good luck on your midterm next week. Same type of paragraph, just different topic and different articles.